family, you tapped into the doatbm. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content and updates. This one's so groovy, baby. Peace, family. So we're back this week. It's your boy Fonzie representing for BattleOnline.com. Genesis Radio, Birmingham, the doatbm podcast. Joined this week by Tawanda Muhammad, and we're going to be discussing some of the things that have been going on locally in the community, namely Birmingham. You know, one of the things we reported on in the past was the murder of Dea-John Reid. And as we can see, his family has stepped in because his case has gone to trial, and people are feeling as though there hasn't been the right kind of justice served for the young teenager with what I do believe, I think the highest maximum charge somebody was given was 6 years to be out in around 3 years. So like I said, we're joined by Brother Tawanda. We're going to definitely dissect this one. Brother Tawanda and I attended Dea-John's vigil and funeral and stuff. And so this isn't a new situation to us. So what's good with you, family?
Peace, God. It's always a pleasure, building with you, God. As you said, we attended the vigil together. You hit me up and said, bro, let's go and show our love and support. We did, and it was a very, touching moment, and seeing the whole community come together like that. There was a lot in it. At the time, of course, we didn't have the facts that we have now in terms of the perpetrators and where the course was going. So slightly different vibe and energy about it. Not slightly, definitely different spaces and places. It was still very raw then. Things were still being found out. So yeah, it's interesting as well. We're going to go into, of course, the discussion we had yesterday, aspects of it, and continue from that point. But I want to begin in the name of Allah. As we do, I bear witness that regardless to land or language or label, that there is one true and living God whose proper name is Allah, but known by many other names, by many other communities and societies and cultures. Jah, Yah, Jehovah, Unkulunkulu, Mwari, Oladum, what the names, whatever the language. I want to basically give all praise and honor to the Most High, the God who is the strength of all our lives. So peace, fam, peace.
No doubt, man, peace, and that's peace. And we definitely say peace to the gods and, peace to the F's and stuff out there. Peace to everybody, as you said, no matter your demarcation or your way of understanding. We give peace to the originals and we give peace to the creators and stuff. So, I do want to mention on Saturday, the 9th of July, there is going to be a national march for racial justice taking place at Twickenham Park, College Road, in Standing, Birmingham, B44 0AJ. And this is going to be put together by the local Justice for Dea-John Reid campaign. I believe members of his family and stuff are going to be there. And they're calling upon everybody in Birmingham and across the country to join the family to explore how Dea-John was killed. Now, it's been reported he was chased down by a racist mob of grown men and teenagers in balaclavas, kitchen knives, using the M-word, using racial slurs and stuff. He reportedly had asthma, and when he no longer could run, he stopped. And at that point was where he was stabbed. And 6 of the guys were found guilty, but not guilty of murder, and the 6th defendant was only found guilty of manslaughter and sentenced to only 6.5 years by an all-white jury. So the campaign itself, people are saying they're petitioning for the Race Relations and Civil Rights Act, and they feel as though they want to specifically address racial discrimination in addition to civil and human rights abuses, which they feel Dea-John was subjected to prior to his horrific killing. Also feeling as though ethnically balanced juries is something that's needed when we see a lot of disparity in the judicial system as it is. But people feel as though now with juries that if you've got like an all-white jury in a case like this, it's easier for them potentially to be led to side with, even in some cases, the assailant, if it's somebody of their own makeup, as bad as that might sound. And because sometimes when we look at understanding, it's like they might hear the story and say, well, this was this kid, what did he do? We've heard people say that, like, what did he do? Now, me personally, I don't think there's anything he could have done that elicited the type of response or the type of way that he was maimed and lynched and sort of ran down like that. Now, we do know that the family have bid to share some footage of the events. We're going to see if we can get some CCTV footage up. Now, we do forewarn people that this may contain some harrowing footage and stuff, but they want people to see this footage of the chase and see some of what happened. So let's see if we can check this out. Here we see the assailant in broad daylight running with knife in hand. Broad daylight being chased down
Wow.
the streets.
Wow. Yeah, brother, that scene that there, it just breaks my heart, and words are inadequate to explain and express the pain, man, and the feeling, of what is being done to our youth, so to me, brother, it's a difficult one, because ultimately I can see what's happening, and I would say what's happening is they are fighting the black god. Basically, what they're dealing with is the essence of blackness. This is the subject of attack, and they've gone right for our youth, and like Bob Marley said, kill them before they grow. Talking about, I shot the sheriff. When you look at it and when you break down what he meant by that, is that Sheriff John Brown hated me. Representing the dominant society, the dominant culture, and for what I don't, I plant a seed. He said, kill it before it grows. He said, kill them before they grow, and that's the example of what we're seeing. Because like you, I don't care what he did, what he's supposed to have done, but that the way that that turned out. No one should go through that, man. No one should go through that. And it's straight out, to me, it's straight out racism. The way that the courts have responded, the media has responded. To me, it's Stephen Lawrence once again. It's the so many different aspects of, the destruction of black intelligence, black youth, a black future, and nothing is done about it that addresses the issue at the core of it. Because at the core of it, this is institutionalized racism, institutionalized in the way that people are educated, and institutionalized in the way that the agencies that are supposed to administer justice and equity also respond. And how can you even have a jury? They say, I think there was one person of color in the jury or whatever. But how is that a jury of that is going to bring about a representation of the society in which we live? So these things, it makes you understand. It makes you see that we are not over the war, between the black man and black God and the white man and white society. This is what we're looking at. This is what we're seeing. This is what's been played out. People are gonna say, let's not talk about race. Let's not bring race into it. But how can you not? When it clearly is that. Yeah, brother. So that's my opening to that. That in my mind, this is a racially targeted situation, which has more layers to it than what we have seen here and are actually able to discuss, because we don't have all the facts and all the knowledge as to what's actually occurred.
Yeah, no, you're right, and that's definitely a great point. And it's interesting you say that, because I remember being at the funeral, and one of the guys who was working for the funeral directors, who I do know throughout the community. He was a younger member of the community and stuff. And when I actually had seen him at the funeral, you know, Caucasian male working there, one of the first things he said to me, and I didn't ask him anything, he was like, "Oh, I don't like the fact that everybody's making this seem like it's a race issue." Now, from what I just shown from the clips and the reports and stuff, we can clearly see that it was some kind of a race issue. We see a 40-year-old young kid being chased down by adults and others. Now, I feel as though
what were they doing? What were they calling out when they were actually chasing him down?
Well, it's been reported they used the N-word and they called him a black bastard and stuff like that. So there was definitely slurs being used. And that was my thing, because I feel as though, let's say, for instance, even if this is the black community and there's about 6 or 7 people, and you know, somebody came in from any other community, whether Asian, whether white and stuff, and let's say an incident occurred, and out of those 7 people, everybody jumped on that person, it would be construed the same way as a race-related incident. Now, out of those 7 people, if a couple of people out had jumped in and tried to stop it and do something different, then you would suggest that maybe that wasn't the case because people had intervened. Now, I think one of the things that was startling and upsetting to a lot of people was there wasn't any kind of intervention. It seems that people, even in the surrounding areas and stuff, who could see what was going on, was sort of encouraging it and, you know, shouting stuff like that too, which kind of brings us back eerily to times of lynching and things of that nature. Now, one of the things is, as you said, when we look at just some of the stuff that's happened and been afflicted to people of color over the years, these things can always spring back memories of old and past incidents. You mentioned Stephen Lawrence, but we recently heard even in America, the case of Emmett Till, who was lynched, and this was in 1955, and his attackers were never brought to
again. You was about 14 years old as well, right?
Yep. And the woman who apparently falsely accused him, she was never served a warrant and stuff, so they're still trying to get her to serve a warrant now. So I bring all of that up to say that, you know, these things flash back into the minds of people when we see these incidents, like we hear about Dea-John, people start thinking about all the other lynchings, all the other killers and stuff like that. So as you said, it's quite apropos when we look at just the dynamic of racism. Is it something that
100%
diminished as they say it has, or is it something that's still prevalent in modern society?
I want to talk to that point.
Okay.
I want to talk to that point, God, pardon me, you know, finish your point and I'll come straight right in.
Yeah, so I mean, I want to use that, and because even recently we see race being discussed with Piers Morgan and Macy Gray, and Piers Morgan made a statement where he said he feels though in the US and in America, well, not in America, in the US and in England, I should say, that racism isn't what it once was. He feels it's only a minority that perpetrates or, you know, plays a part in this type of act. But when we think about just the act that we've seen, then this may have been a minority group of the people that actually went out there and committed it. But then when it goes to the system and we see it becoming, you know, in the judicial system, it still seems to mirror and have the same hallmarks of systemic racism. It doesn't seem like, okay, it was just an isolated incident in the streets and these people were brought to justice. Just like the guy was saying to me at the funeral, saying, "Oh, well, it's not a race issue, everybody's been arrested." But when we fast forward now, when we look at how the process went through court, nobody actually really served any real time. It could be likened to a kangaroo court that we see even with Emmett Till and other stuff like that. So I said all that to say, have things really changed that much if people cannot get a fair trial when incidents like this happen? And people got to look at it and say, well, you know, he must have been in the wrong, or just not having that care or compassion for somebody like Dea-John.
Well, peace, God, you know, I appreciate you laying that foundation and definitely some points and issues that we've got to, you know, handle. And one of them is, look, after Stephen Lawrence was murdered by those 5 youths, you know, at the time, you know, and the community, you know, of where he was murdered, you know, that whole southeast, I think it's I can't remember exactly the was killed, but I know it was near a place like Erith, Bexley Heath, those kind of places. The community, some people reported what was happening to the police. Other people kept information from coming to light, and the police themselves hid the data, and for falsified reports and all of that. And this all came out. This is not me saying this. This came out, when the police and when an inquiry was done, into the circumstances surrounding the death of Stephen Lawrence. And it was discovered that the police were complicit in terms of covering up Scotland Yard, the Metropolitan Police, all of them. And Judge McPherson, one of the big things that came out of that particular inquiry was Judge McPherson, who is a High Court judge in this country, or was a High Court judge, is probably retired now. He said his conclusion was that Britain, the United Kingdom, is institutionally racist. This is what a white judge himself had to come out and say, given the facts and looking at it, and that means that has to be taken, seriously. Not because a judge said it, but it's what he said. This country is institutionally racist. Need we go into the colonial history? Need we go into the enslaving of our people, and taking over the slave trade from Spain and all of that. So this country has demonstrated itself a certain way. So for people to say that it's not racial and it's not about race, I think is either ignorance, or outright, misinformation and disinformation, because that is the record. I think what white society needs to be looking at is, if they are sincere, what are they going to do about such things, and actually handle their own house, you know what I mean, and bring their own house, in order. Because, and this is a warning, not from myself, because I have no power, but the reality is you cannot kill Black people, and nothing happens, because Black people belong to God, because these are the descendants of a people who were enslaved. And from slavery, you then have colonialism, you then have neo-colonialism, then you have all these sorts of injustices that are there, which are designed to actually, take the soul of the Black person. So this is important to know, that if white society does not address this appropriately, you don't have to worry about what Black people are going to do. No, God is going to answer you. God is going to answer the United Kingdom, just like Queen Elizabeth I knew that she didn't want to get into slavery at first. When John Hawkins brought about the proposition to her, she said she feared, basically what God would do. And I think it's the same as Thomas Jefferson. When he considered the justice of God, he worried about what was going to happen to America in the final analysis, because God will answer. The innocents don't die for no reason or no purpose. It may appear like they got away with something, that raging mob that stabbed the brother in the heart, but justice doesn't sleep, and neither does God sleep. So my whole response to this, Brother P, just to cut straight to the chase, my response to this is that Black people also have got something to do. And what we've got to do is that we've got to come back to ourselves, know who we are. And we've got to tie our struggle, our quest for struggle, and our desire for justice, we've got to tie that back to the Creator. Whether we call him Jah, God, Jehovah, whatever language we speak, whatever, culture we come from, we've got to basically understand that we cannot fight this war by means of arms. We cannot even use their systems to get justice. We can attempt that, but ultimately, I will quote a Hebrew Israelite brother. He said to me, "It is not in the interest of your adversary to give you the tools of liberation." So it's not in the interest of this society to actually handle this problem appropriately, because they could have. It went to court. It could have been dealt with. Yeah. But that element of the denial of Black life, to the point where people have to even say Black lives matter. Why would you need to say that? Do you know what I mean? It just shows you the extent of the hatred, the racism, the injustice, and the mindset that we're dealing with. So I don't think we can appeal, to the nature of, to be merciful. Do you know what I mean? What we can actually do is we can find the solutions from amongst our own resources and basically bring about that which we're seeking. Justice is not going to come from these people, not from the history we've seen.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. You make some great points that, I want to slightly add on to, because, Dea-John's family, they do feel significantly that justice was averted and not really served within this trial. One of the things that was significant and that really struck a chord to people was the racial abuse that was used, but it wasn't actually considered by the jury. They said that whoever the guy was who actually committed the act, who they charged for manslaughter, they said there was no evidence of him using racial abuse, even though others in the mob or the group may have. So, as you said, just that type of systemic kind of game playing where they're able to alleviate the responsibility of one where it suits, and be able to just kind of mess around with people's lives. And at the end of the day, these are people's lives that we're looking at. You made a point earlier about just young or even Black boys being under attack. We often hear of this concept. We hear about it systemically, even within the educational system. We hear about, young Black youth being criminalized. Sometimes we see even examples of this just on the news, with youngsters being stopped, riding their bikes, walking down the streets and stuff like that. So there's a certain kind of identity that people have when they think young Black youth. It's easy for them to say, oh, well, this person was a criminal, or they was out to rob people, or they was doing this, or they was doing that. And like I said, I don't have the actual facts on everything, but needless to say, as you just made some great points there, just going over systemic racism and showing that this is something that's been in application for a long period of time. It's not really something new.
Right.
Now, when we want to look at the family, Dea-John's mother was on the news and stuff recently, and she spoke quite candidly, and a lot of people see it was quite heartfelt and stuff as well. I might end with some of those clips and stuff afterwards, but I wanted to ask, because one of the things, in the times that we live in now, we all know that we cross paths with different people from different groups, different nationalities, different walks of life, so on and so forth. And for the most part, people purport not to be bigoted, not to be racist, not to be of that sort of way of thinking. And we do like to think that we live within a world where people have to work together and get along and move forward and stuff. Do you feel when incidents like this happen, the lack of support from other communities is something that's shocking, or something that, because I don't feel as though, like in an instance like this, there's people from other communities coming forward necessarily that vocal about it and about the injustice. It only seems to come from the Black community. I think a lot of the times others, they don't show that same compassion when it comes to Black people in that sense.
Yes, I think that other communities see what's happening and may focus on their own issues, what's happening in their own communities. But what's not been realized is the context of how Black people end up in this situation in the first place. And there is a lack of compassion, in my view, for Black people, because the whole society, is constructed along certain lines that, the Black is at the bottom, and the lighter you get is higher up the totem pole that you go. Do you know what I mean? With white at the top. That's not even an exaggeration. If you look at how crime is handled in general, we could go into other stuff that has been going on.
Well, they call what they call Small crimes, white collar crime.
Do you understand? There's a lot of that is actually going on. The reality is that when a white person perpetrates a crime such as this, and other crimes, and when a black person, perpetrates such crimes, there's a disparity in how that's handled and that's how that's dealt with, and that cannot be separated from the fact that it's based on who the perpetrator is. So, but coming specifically to what you're saying, part of it is that we as a people, black people, do not know who we are, and therefore we do not assign the type of value, have not assigned the type of value that we are due to our own selves, which makes other communities, also not really value us. Do you know what I mean? Because value, there's work that we have to do. I'm not putting it all on the white society, or even the Asian society. There is something that we have to do. Okay, we have to recognize who we are, and we have to assign value to ourselves and put things in place that protect our young, that protect our women, that protect our men. We need to put things in place, but we're disrupted and we are distracted as a community. And as a result, we are more economics for other communities. For them to get involved in a way, in my opinion, for them to get involved significantly would affect their economics. And so there is hesitance in that way. And secondly, also, it's very hard to leave your own community if you've got an organized community, as other communities seem to have. Leave your community to focus on another community, although you should, because if justice is given to black people, ultimately that reverberates into the community and other people, because it's a human issue, at the end of the day. But that's not granted to black people, and there are many reasons, I guess. But I would say the biggest reason for that is the fact that we are disenfranchised as a people, and our state of disenfranchisement makes us useful to other people, not as equals, but as as
like a commodity,
consumers of their commodities,
yeah.
As commodities ourselves that can be traded and all of that, that facilitate a lot of other activities.
Yeah,
but I also wanted to say this, P, before you in fact, let me let you come in. I've got something else that I wanted to say as racism.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, the point I was just gonna make, because you just said it about it being a human issue, and I just wanted to take that as opportunity, because it definitely is. When we think of rights and human rights and civil rights, these are rights for everybody. But one thing we see is the dehumanization sometimes of black people, and especially when we think about slavery and the effects of that. That was something that is still gonna be. I know people say, "Oh, it was a long time ago. Yeah, I need to get over slavery and all that stuff," but that still has its part to play. So even you just saying that about the humanization aspect, I wanted to throw that in there, because we're dealing with people that have been dehumanized in a way where it has not only its effect on them and their own psyche, but on how other people view them visually in the world too.
I'm glad you brought that point in, because it's and expanded that point, because until black people are actually first of all seen as human, then you won't have the subsequent steps. Now, I'm not saying that there are no white people, Asian people, who regard black people as such. Of course they are. But what I'm saying is that as it relates to the dominant decision-making culture, black people are assigned a particular position, and to understand that, we have to really go deep into origins of even species, which is something that is awesome. I'm not talking about the Charles Darwin document, Origin of Species, because I don't believe in that. I actually believe that that's not true. Okay. However, I'm talking, look at black and people come to be. That process we know black people have always been, but when you look at the process of how white people came to be, then you understand why some of these things are there. So some of these problems, in a sense, are natural because they stem out of a natural process of existence. I know it's a broader point that I'd have to expound out on, but for now, I just wanted to say that when we understand those realities, then we understand why it is that black people are constantly in this situation, and it's a constant thing, it's a constant thing that we find ourselves the victims of abuse and being let down continuously and systematically by the institutions that are supposed to be for justice. But I think that is also deliberate. I think that's part of the plan of breaking the black soul, if that's possible. That is something that has been tried ever since our forefathers set their feet on the souls of these nations. Now, I notice and would like to say that within the society, there are white people who are fed up of that as well. So if we go to marches, if we go to rallies, if we go to groupings where we're trying to get justice, you will find white people also involved in that. This needs to stop, and they're right to do that. This problem, this cancer, this illness, this disease that's in the society that causes that type of injustice is the issue that needs to be tackled and addressed. And there seems to lack the wisdom to do it, from the spiritual community, the religious communities, the other groupings of people that are meant to be addressing the social standings and issues of the society. So we need a greater wisdom in actually dealing with that, and that wisdom is there. It's just not attended to and addressed, So when we look at solutions to what is actually going on, then that will start to come up when we look at what our wise men and sages of the past and present have come and left us with, the programs, the positions, the blueprints of how to actually not only get equality, but how to get free as people. But that image people, black mothers especially, heartbroken, that takes me back to, slavery times when a child is snatched from the mom and in some way brutalized or abused, and all we can do is cry. All we can do is because there has been no justice. The scripture says justice standeth afar off, because truth has fallen in the street and equity cannot enter. That is the Bible talking, and talking about particularly what we're experiencing now. The Quran says that persecution is worse than slaughter, and we've lived a life of persecution. Our life, in the West has been persecution. And for those white people and black people and Asian people that say there's no racism, they need to actually examine what is going on. Look at the statistics, look at the facts, and not basically their own imaginings on this, but looking at it and dealing with it factually. That is what that's what I would say, Brother P. There's obviously much to go into, brother.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, as you just said there, I think you made some great points, just bringing it back and bringing it forward, just to, seeing the pain in the faces of some of the black women, the mothers and stuff. And that was something that we definitely saw in the clips from Dea-John's family. So we definitely once again want to extend our condolences to all of his family, close, far, near. We're all one big family anyway, but we want to extend those condolences to Dea-John and stuff. We do want to once again mention that there will be another rally taking place on Saturday the 9th of July, 1 p.m. You can find information on it online. Just type in Justice for Dea-John Reid National March, and you'll find some information and stuff on it. I mean, myself, I was very moved by the circumstances and situation. As you know, one of the things we spoke about was just the system and how it was able to sort of manipulate certain things. We do understand that the guy who was charged, the youngest one, through the same sort of system, which in one aspect has protected him, his identity can't be revealed. And they say because of, his age, and then the older guys were released now. Sometimes I guess people who know to even play within the ranks of the system, they know how to get away with some things. And, I'm not saying too much on this one because I don't have all the actual facts there, but it's definitely apparent that foul play was at play. And that's one of the things that led me to record a couple of tribute songs. One I did called Shine the Light, and I did a part 2 featuring a couple of young people who actually went to school with Dea-John, King Shaq and stuff. And they were very moved by the situation. I remember at the time when we recorded that, it could have been not too far off when, the situation had happened. So we tried our best to encapsulate the spirit and the message of what was happening then.
That day, when I hear that Dea-John passed, I tell you, I feel like I was going to die. Dea-John don't deserve to die like that. He didn't do anybody anything.
For the mother of Dea-John Reid, the pain of losing her son is made worse still by what his family see as the absence of justice that followed in the courts.
I sit the 6 weeks there with my mom and we watch the video of everything. I literally see the person run and stab my brother in the heart. And you say it's not murder, it makes no sense.
Yeah, easy.
Dea-John was a talented young footballer who wanted to train to become a dentist. He was just 14 years old when he was stabbed to death in broad daylight. CCTV shows him being chased through the streets, hunted down, in the words of the prosecutor, by a group of white men and boys who racially abused him. He's caught up to by another 14-year-old boy, masked and brandishing a large kitchen knife. At his trial, he claimed the stabbing seconds later was in self-defense. The jury acquitted him of murder, convicting him of manslaughter. The others involved walked free.
What do you think about the verdict that was passed?
There's something went wrong somewhere. You see a person have a knife like that, chasing down someone, and you say that is manslaughter? It seems like Dea-John life wasn't matter to none of them. And it's true, Dea-John black. That's why Dea-John life don't matter.
They say the jury at Birmingham Crown Court had just one member from an ethnic minority background. The verdict meant the killer received a 6.5-year sentence. Dea-John's family say the system let them down and needs to change.
We need the jury, we need them to mix. You understand? No pure white, nor no pure Asian. We need a mixed minority.
And you think that will make a difference?
Yes, it will. Because if it was mixed, I feel it wouldn't go like this.
The family is now campaigning alongside this community activist for a new law requiring juries are ethnically diverse in cases where race is an issue. There's no evidence that race played a part in the jury's verdict. So why is this so important?
Because if people are judged by their peers, so your peers are the people that you live with, and that jury did not reflect Birmingham. So if someone uses the N-word, a juror who is white may not understand the serious implications of those statements.
We put the family's calls to this senior barrister, but he believes the way that juries are chosen means they're already the fairest element of the criminal justice system.
I think it's important for juries to be diverse wherever possible. All our jurors are in fact drawn out of a hat, and it means that, broadly speaking, we get fair juries and they are balanced.
But that's little comfort for this family, who continue to suffer from a belief that the system didn't care about their son and they want his death to matter.
I told him he's going to do something great, and if he can leave this for other kids to come and they don't have to worry about going in a courtroom and getting judged because of the colour of your skin, you won't get justice, and you wouldn't want that.
At rallies this weekend, they hope to enlist the support of those who last year turned out in shock at Dea-John's killing. A spokesman for the Ministry of Justice called it a despicable crime, but said studies have shown juries deliver fair results irrespective of their ethnic makeup. This teenager's family will never believe that. Ben Chapman, ITV News, Birmingham.
Yeah, so there we can see some of the ITV news report that was shared, speaking on what was happening. So the rally is going to take place this weekend. We've seen a few people, barristers in there, speaking on the whole concept of jury, saying they feel as though that things are fair as it is and things are done through the best selection process. So it lends to what we were saying earlier, that we don't think in that aspect systemically things are going to change too much, as they haven't identified or noted any kind of problem. So that's where that is.
Yes, sir, brother. Just to add on to what you're saying, definitely the system itself needs to change. The system itself is a problem. And I really just wanted to quote Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, because I think of all the definitions that have been given, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing describes racism. She says racism is the system of racial subjugation against non-whites in every area of human relations. Now, there are some things that we have to get, I would say, an understanding of and a study of and into. Why do these things occur? What is that system shielding? What is it protecting? And ultimately, it's protecting the position of those in power over those that are not. And who are in power is evident to see. White people, and even though they may distribute some of that by of giving positions to black people and all of that, the essential reason has to be understood. As Raskas put it, nature of the threat. We have to understand what the threat actually is. That will give us an understanding of what all of this is. There's a lot of information that is missing. There's a lot of lies that are in the communication. And whenever you've got lies in a communication, it produces traps and blocks, and that's why we cannot get justice out of this system, because like Isaiah the prophet said, justice, far off, because truth has fallen in the street and equity cannot enter. Without the truth of what it is, and we found it here, and if we don't do what we must, we will leave it here. Although I do think that really it's come to an end where this system has to either correct itself or go out of existence. Not by my hands, but by the hands of the Almighty, because that's what He demands. So that's what I would say, with regards to that, brother. Peace.
I think we're going to wind down on this one. We definitely, explored a lot of the happenings with the case. There's so many things we can look out from the socio-political aspects and just race and society, which, is always an opportunity for an additional build. We do once again want to extend our condolences to everybody hurt and affected by these circumstances, not just locally in the community, but externally. Also, we do know people are going through it all around the world and stuff like that too. So, once again, rest in peace to Dea-John Reid. The justice that we may not see now, hopefully we see one day in the future. We have seen even recently, as I aforementioned, with Emmett Till's circumstance and situation. Years later, the fight is still continuing and there is still cause to call the assailants into account. So hopefully with this, we will see, as you said, we're dealing with Black people, you're dealing with a very resilient people sometimes. So even in the miscarriages of justice that we see sometimes, it's never forgotten about, and people will continue to fight for justice.
Definitely. Like yourself, I want to extend my condolences and also support to the family of Dea-John. And we will no doubt, extend ourselves and do whatever we can,
to support, in whatever ways we can. And one of the things we can definitely do is make communication, make links, and see what's needed, and see if we can provide that. So thank you for having me, and thank you for sharing this platform with myself as we shared the platform, and share the platform basically because we are black men in the society looking at and observing at what is going on. So I appreciate you, brother, and may Allah, God Jah, be pleased with our young brother whose life was unfortunately snuffed down.
No doubt, man. And I want to take the moment just to quickly mention there's a application or a group going around called Mount Melanin, who is a collective, a bit of a group where people can get together to discuss different topics in different forums and stuff that can benefit the development of their self within the community and stuff. And hopefully we should have somebody from the Mount Melanin team on soon, just explaining a bit more about that. You mentioned just communication and people connected together and stuff, so that could be a platform that can be used as such. So this is your boy Fonzie Neutral representing for Back to Online, Genesis Radio, Birmingham, the doatbm podcast. Stay up, stay woke, and always look out for you folks. Peace.
Peace, family. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and check us out on doatbm.com. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook for exclusive playlists and social media for all different types of segments and content.